WNB1 Radio, your urban music link.
Good evening and welcome to Straight to the Point Sports. We're here at the WMU1 studios in downtown New Bedford, and I am flagged by both of the regulars, Derek Consatio and Steve Lopes.
What up, everybody?
What's going on, New Bedford?
So now we know um, the stage was set when we were here last week. We were digging into the Final Four. Now we now know who our national championships are, both men and women. The men, obviously, UConn back to back. The women, South Carolina finishes with a perfect season, ends it with the cherry on top with the Natty. We'll talk
ironic.
about yes, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that. We'll talk about both teams, and we'll also pose the question: who had the tougher road to the national championship? Was it the Yukon men or the South Carolina women? Because they both had some similar things happening, some moving parts. We'll talk about the search for a new head coach over at Kentucky. Calipari in the middle of the night decided that he's going to leave and he's heading over to Arkansas.
That sounds a little sketchy to me.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Next few days, we'll
Not-
be hearing
it's
about
not-
something.
It's not the first time that this guy did something like this.
A lot of people are wondering what's going on. What the what's going on? Is there something behind it, or is it other questions? There's a lot of rumors that not a lot of rumors, but it's factual that Kentucky is kind of lagging in a lot of their things. One of the big draws for him was NIL money. Because Arkansas brings in big buku money, where Kentucky doesn't bring
Well,
anything.
who's the two biggest boosters for Arkansas?
Yes, Jerry Jones.
He wasn't even one of the two that I saw mentioned, but yeah, he's
No,
an
Jerry
Arkansas
Jones.
alumnus, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jerry Jones.
The Walmart family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another billionaire. I saw it posted, but I was like,
Yeah.
they got
Jerry-
long money behind them.
Jerry Jones is the heaviest hitter of all the because they were talking about it, and Jerry Jones is the heaviest hitter, and Jerry Jones was saying to go out and find, basically was behind it saying go out and find the best coach you can get. So he was one of the
So I wonder if
top
they
boosters.
contacted him and planted that apple, or was there stuff going on behind the scenes where Kentucky was like, something's getting ready to happen and we don't know how much longer we can keep you.
Yeah. Also, we'll talk about as you know, today, OJ Simpson passed. We're going to talk about what is his legacy now. We know for it's been 30 years since his legal issues have happened.
1992.
Have
that's
happened. And today he obviously passed from colon cancer. And it's strange because there was a video out there that was saying that he was getting ready to go into treatment, and it had leaked that things were going south for him. So he made a video just before the Super Bowl, and he said, "No, everything's fine, everything's fine." But as we know today, he passed. A lot of controversy. Obviously with OJ, we're going to talk about what is his legacy now. It's kind of twofold, but we'll get into that. Also, we're gonna talk about the NBA playoffs. All set, almost all set,
Western Conference.
almost all set.
Some people have 3 games, the other people have 4.
Yeah, but
3 and
the
2.
Western
3 and
Conference
2.
is set for their playoff
Yeah.
matchups with the playoff. Nothing can change.
It's definitely not Minnesota.
1 through
can't.
10.
Because Minnesota lost yesterday. Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
Minnesota lost
To Denver.
to Denver, and they only got 2 games left, and I guess Denver has
That's
a
3.
tiebreaker for head-to-head.
Yeah. So the East is the playing games aren't even decided yet.
No.
The only thing that's pretty much a lock is the Celtics. I believe
Up
I
15
believe
games with 2 to go.
I believe that all Milwaukee has to do is win one of their remaining 2 games. I think.
Well, Giannis is not playing the rest of
He's
the regular
he's not
season.
playing. He's the rest of the regular season is only
And
2 games.
is it the Knicks on their heels or Cleveland?
Yep. Both are separated by 2. I think they're separated by a game. They're separate by. There's only 2 games remaining.
But you know, the
So-
only thing that gets settled, whether you're 2 or 3, is if you both advance to the semifinals, who gets home court advantage? Because you're not going to play the Celtics until the championship, Eastern Conference Championship. 2 and 3 are going to play each other eventually. It's just a matter of who will have home court advantage.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about that. As always, phone lines are open. The numbers scrolling down at the bottom, 774-425-2631. Also remember to download the WMB1 radio app, available on both platforms on iPhone and Android. So don't forget to go and do that. All right, so we'll get started. We're going to talk about, we'll go first. We'll talk about the UConn men. All right. So obviously they beat Purdue in the national championship game. I don't think anybody was surprised with the outcome. I think the pros were spot on. And everybody knew pretty much that that UConn was going to at some point separate themselves. They were going to smother them, and they were going to go on a run, which they did, and ultimately
More
led.
options. They don't rely on one guy like Purdue does, and that was so obvious.
So okay, so explain what obviously what Purdue was going through. Although I mean, the guy, he played a hell of a game.
Oh, he did.
He had 40, didn't he?
37.
37, yeah.
The highest amount in the championship game. He did everything he could, but not only did they shut down everybody else with their defense, they said, here was the philosophy that I thought was brilliant, and it came right from Coach Early. He's only going to get a bunch of 2-pointers. He's not going to score enough by himself to beat us.
Exactly.
We'll let him have as many points as possible because that takes away their, like when they wanted to come back, they were still looking for him to score. It's kind of hard to come back 2 at a time when you can't shoot threes. They had one kid, I think it was Smith, that did all right in the first half, and then nothing. Stephon Castle just shut him down in the second half.
Yeah.
And they had nowhere else to go but to go to Edey. Slow, methodical, takes time off the clock. You have to wait for him to get down court, set up the offense, run. There's no quick way to come back. So like when Brian said, when we knew the runs were coming and they couldn't keep up with them, and everybody else was smothered.
They just they didn't have the 3-point the 3-point shooting that they had in the previous few games.
Yeah.
And that's a
there was a lot
UConn's D.
Yes, to be able to close out on the perimeter guys, playing good defense, and it just didn't happen for them. UConn was more sound, 1 through 12 or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
They were just more sound, and not to mention, did you see when Edey went out?
For 34 seconds. And
they
just
went
that
up-
short time was like a 6-0 run.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were already up like 4. Now you're in double figures.
Yeah, and this was the issue: lack of depth, lack of people being able to step up most when they needed it, and they weren't able to maintain their 3-point shooting as they did in the Final Four and the Sweet 16, like they previously had. And like I said, UConn was they would come in waves, they could go 8-9 deep, where Purdue could only literally go 6 if they were lucky, and everybody had to be playing their A game. Nobody, could, fall behind and as unlucky to them, they couldn't sustain it. But let's talk about UConn as a program. So that was their 6th national title.
Was it number 6?
Number 6,
I thought it was
2 in a
5.
row.
2 in a row. Since 1999, they have the most, basically since their first title, they have the most national titles, more than any other team.
Wow.
So when we talk about powerhouses, right? UConn is never really in the discussion. They're never really in the discussion. We don't say, okay, blue blood, UConn. No, we don't think that way. We think about the Kansases and the North Carolinas and the Dukes
Kentucky.
and
I
the
think
Kentucky.
when we think powerhouse is UConn, we think of their women first because they got like 11 championships.
Yeah. We don't think of them as being a blue blood, but in this century, they've got, like I said, 6 titles.
That's got to be the most.
You know what
Yes,
the
it
amazing
is.
part is? They got them all with different coaches.
Yeah,
I
they've
think
got
Calhoun got three.
three.
Then the other coach, the black dude that came in, got
No,
one.
no. So no. It goes this way.
Calhoun
Calhoun's
got
got Calhoun's got he's got
Cal-
three.
He's
got three.
Oh, yeah,
The other
three.
dude had one.
Uh,
Now this guy got two.
Kevin Ollie has one,
Kevin
and
Ollie.
Dan Hurley has two.
If I'm not mistaken, Kevin Ollie got one in like his first or second year.
Second year.
Yeah.
Second year, because the first year he
He was a
came
good
in,
recruiter.
they were on academic probation.
But he did a good job
So
recruiting.
in his second year, he actually got them to the title game, which was 2014. Calhoun won in 09,
That with Lamb.
94,
Could've been.
04, and 2011. Ollie was in 14, and obviously Hurley back to back 23 and 24.
Wow.
They now have the same amount of titles as North Carolina, 6.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Outside of that UCLA legacy,
And
they got more titles than
and
anybody.
they have the most at what? 8, is it?
Who?
UCLA?
14.
14.
Yeah.
Damn.
14.
Hell, they won like 8
They
out of 10
14.
years,
Wow.
like the Celtics in the
Yeah,
60s.
they went on a
14.
yes, they went on
I
a
remember back in the
streak.
day, college recruiting was territorial too.
Yeah,
You had to recruit people in a certain.
yeah. But you think about it. Let's talk about some of the players that have come through the UConn
Oh,
system.
man.
Ray Allen, Richard Hamilton, Clifford Robinson, Karan Butler, Ben Gordon, Amika Okafor, Kemba Walker. All right, those are players.
Khalid El-Amin.
Those are players that are on the top. Obviously, that made a huge difference when it came to the NBA. All right, some other players, right? Andre Drummond, Rudy Gay, Daniel Marshall, Toby Kimball, Jeremy Lamb, Charles Villanova,
Yeah.
Scott Burrell, Travis Knight, Kevin Ollie, Jake Bosco, Shabazz Napier, Marcus Williams, and Jordan Hawkins.
You never
those-
said
those-
El-Amin? I
Um,
didn't hear you say Khalid El-Amin.
I don't know. Did I?
He was a major part of that championship.
Oh, he was. Well, the article that I was reading and that I got the names from, it named some of those guys. Wait. No, I said Shabazz Napier. I didn't say I didn't say
And
Allen.
Khalil El-Amin got a championship.
Yes, he did. So did Shabazz Napier. But yeah, those are just some of the guys. I mean, think about it. Those names are heavy hitters.
Oh, yeah.
Those are heavy
And they
hitters.
were all recruited by 3 different coaches. Like they've always had good recruiting at UConn.
Well, those guys right there were 2 coaches, pretty much.
Well, the majority of them happened during the Calhoun
Yeah,
era.
a Calhoun era. Yeah, they
Ollie
happened
wasn't there that long.
No.
but he
He
had
was
some
there.
of them
He
in a
was
short
there.
stay.
He was there
part
as
of
an
the team.
assistant
Part of the coach. Yeah.
as
And,
an assistant coach.
Local friend Dave Lato was the top recruiter for
Yes,
a lot for Calhoun.
Yes. So, like I said, generally when we talk about UConn, we don't consider them a blue blood, but
That's
now this all has to change. We have to think of them in the same breath as the Kentuckys, as the Dukes, as the Carolinas,
Yeah.
as the Arizonas. You know, these are all teams that.
See, I don't consider Arizona a blue blood, though.
The thing with
Lute
Arizona.
Olson was there.
Listen, the thing with Arizona was they always made it to
Yeah,
the Sweet
sit on
16s,
there
but they
with
could
the
never
Steelers.
they could never finish the deal.
Yeah.
They could never finish the
Oh, no,
deal.
I know the players. I can tell you a lot of bunch of players, but I think how many championships do they have? Like 2?
Who?
Arizona. Maybe two?
Arizona, they don't know. They only
One?
have one. Yep.
So
This is how it goes. I'm going to tell you. San Fran back in the day, obviously with Bill Russell, 2, Oklahoma State 2, North Carolina State 2, Michigan State 2, Louisville 2, Florida 2. Okay, Florida was the
Nice
last team to go to back to back, right?
Billy Donovan.
And Villanova with 3. Villanova's all came in and they had 2, and then they had the miracle 1. All right.
Raleigh.
Yes. So you got Kansas with 4, Indiana with 5, Duke with 5, North Carolina and UConn with 6. So think about it. UConn has more titles now than Duke.
Yeah.
All right. That's how crazy that is.
And at one
Kentucky
time,
8. I'm sorry. UCLA had 11. I said 14. They had 11.
UConn didn't go big time Division 1 until like the 80s, the mid 80s or the low 80s
Right.
when the Big East started.
Well, let's put it this way.
Before the Big East, they were almost
were-
like NAIA.
they
almost.
played with Northeastern. They played at Northeastern.
Yeah, they played in a smaller,
Yeah.
less visible conference.
Like when
when
they
the
had-
formation,
when
when
they-
they got added to the Big East, that's
I
when
wanna
they got
say-
notoriety.
I don't want to say the guy's name was Chris Smith.
The point
The
guard.
point guard. Everybody said he looked like my brother David back in the day.
Yeah. But just think about that, right? So
Cliff
North
Robinson.
Carolina and UConn now have 6, and Duke has 5. They've actually caught up They surpassed Duke,
And think about it,
and they've caught North Carolina.
all the wins Coach K has, and he only has 5 championships.
Yes. Yes, it's crazy
Crazy.
to think about it. And now the train of thought has to start thinking. For us sitting here at this table, we can go back further, but the kids who were born, let's say the kids who were born late
After the Big
90s.
East heyday.
Well, yeah, late 90s. Let's say kids in the late 90s.
Yeah, they don't know.
So now UConn is like their, the UConns, the Dukes, North Carolinas. Those are the big teams that they look at. The Villanovas, because they've all won championships most recently.
Yeah.
But if we go back into the heyday of the Big East, the Big
East was stacked.
yeah.
Every team was tough.
Oh yeah,
Even the last place team, what they have like 7, 8 teams that were making the tournament at the end of the year,
yeah.
and they only had 10 in the conference at the time, and like 7 of them
Yeah.
would make it.
Yeah, well, the teams that weren't making it were the Boston colleges. They had one. They had
Until
a
Dana
couple of
Barros
runs.
came along.
They had a
Bill
couple.
Curley.
They had a couple of runs
Mhm.
where they they made impressive runs, Sweet 16s. But it was the Boston colleges. It was the Seton Halls. Those were the teams that were pretty much
St.
at the
John's
end
in
of
the
the
90s. St. John's wasn't that good. St. John's was good with
Mullen, Berry.
Mullen, Berry,
Pearl.
Willie Glass.
No, Pearl
Oh no, Pearl. Yeah.
Willie
Pearl
Glass,
yes.
Mott Jackson.
Yeah.
That's
They
when they were good.
they were good. They were good in the early 80s. In the early 80s.
Mid 80s.
Early 80s to mid 80s.
Yeah.
When the 90s came around, things started changing. But then again, that's when the Big East started. They started.
That's when Luke Honor left.
They started a decline. But yeah, the thing about UConn is we should be looking at them as an elite program now, and we don't give them their due. 6 titles, more than Duke, more than Indiana, more than Kansas, more than Villanova, more than Louisville, teams that were highly heralded back in the day. They just don't have the resume to keep up with them.
Think about it. UConn is only it's predominantly just a basketball school.
That's what I meant. Like
Like,
they built the basketball program because of their alliance with the Big East, but you don't know about none of them in any other sport except 1 year in baseball.
Nah,
They had George Springer there,
well, a couple years in football when they had Jordan Todman because he's local.
right? But
That's
they
about-
still didn't play like they weren't a highly visible national team
No. But
like
I'm saying,
the basketball.
I'm saying
programs.
that's why we noticed him because of
Yeah.
Jordan Todman.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's one of those things that I think they need to get more shine. They need to get
Well, they're in the
It's-
perfect
it's gonna come.
situation to
It's
be
gonna
set up
come.
for the future right now.
Yeah.
A coach who I think is going to be there for the rest of his career. Recruiting got to be off the chains right now because
2 years in a row.
yeah, they didn't have a star last year. We heard about the kid that got drafted by Utah in the first round. What was his? Brian mentioned his name in the list. The kid that was on UConn's team last year that was the leading scorer, the shooting guard. Starts with the J.
was it
Hawkins, Jordan Hawkins.
Hawkins, yeah.
So they, especially under Hurley, they create that team culture where there's so many interchangeable parts that anybody can be the star. We didn't hear about Jordan Hawkins until the Big East tournament, and then he really started getting a lot of attention when they got to the big tournament. He builds that type of culture where he's recruiting well, he's getting people to buy into the program. There's a lot of unselfishness to have that type of program. You got to get kids to check their egos at the door and say it's a team effort. You might not get the notoriety. How many different leading scorers? When you look at not even their starting 5, the first 7, any one of those guys could be leading scorer any night.
Yeah, that's how they pretty much were for the majority of the year. It's like you never know who's going to give you 20.
And that's what makes them so hard to prepare for. You can't just prepare for 1 or 2 guys.
Well, I think so. If you listen to the post-game presser with Hurley, he said we don't recruit kids that do one thing well. We recruit well-rounded basketball players, meaning
both ends of the court.
Meaning we just don't recruit scorers. We recruit guys who know how to score and guys who know how to play defense.
That's not a bad
And it's a lot easier when you have players like that because they're interchangeable. No one player is like a specialist. They have them, but they're few and far between. And that's what he said in the post game presser. Being able to make the transition from last year to repeat, and that it speaks volumes, for the coach too, because
Yes.
to be able to juggle all those players. You probably got 3 or 4 players that can go on probably any other Division One
Yep.
program and be a starter.
Yep.
So you got to be able to manage it too as a coach. Big ups to them. But I just found it so funny that when I was doing the research, and I'm like, let me just look up to see how many titles they have, and I was pleasantly surprised to be like, whoa,
Wow, that's crazy.
caught North Carolina surpassed Duke. Who would have ever thunk, right? Because North Carolina and Duke, those are pretty much the prima donna schools, the bluest of blue bloods, and we don't.
Those are a couple of schools that get all the
Yeah,
All-Americans.
the blue bloods,
Yeah.
and we don't think like I said, we don't think of UConn in that same breath. But now back to backs, like you said, the first team to do it since Florida, way back in the day. You got to give them
No, Trernell Horford was there. Right?
notoriety. Yeah. So yeah, it's a big to do now. But yeah, so kudos to them.
He got one, right?
Who?
Horford.
2.
He him get 2. I thought him and Noah played on the same team.
Yeah, they were back to back.
I thought he was a year ahead of Noah.
I thought they were back. I could be wrong. I thought they were back to back.
They did go back to back, but I didn't know if Horford was on that second team.
I don't know. We can look it up. All right, so let's go on to the women. The women, South Carolina. South Carolina outlasted obviously Iowa and Caitlin Clark. And we can look at it. I think here's what the parallels for the men's game and the women's game. I think it's eerily similar because Iowa obviously has Caitlin Clark. All right. And she misses everything. And you had to have a supporting cast when you play against a team like South Carolina that's going to rotate 8 girls and 9 girls in, where Caitlin Clark isn't going to come out a minute unless she gets into foul trouble. So that's another thing. I mean, they were fortunate enough in the games, the game once again against UConn, where she got support.
UConn only went 6 deep though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's
8
obviously
players on the whole team.
that's because of the injury thing. But I'm just the point that I'm trying to make is it wasn't just Caitlin Clark. She had 2 other girls that helped out too. But in this game, it was quite different. And it was first quarter. I mean, first and second quarter. I should say first half. They kept it close.
Caitlin Clark had
kept it close. But as a team,
But after that,
as a team, I think they played well in the first half. The second half was a different story, and it was reported that what was the girl's name there? For South Carolina, the one that
Raven Johnson.
yes,
Yeah, that's the one that they blew off.
yes,
with the jump shot.
last year.
Take it personal.
Caitlin Clark did that. So she was so in the first half, they put a couple of different people on Caitlin Clark. She became the primary defender, and she turned her over 5 times. 5 times.
She took it from her.
Oh yeah. She turned her over 5 times. And I think Caitlin Clark was only, I think she was 2 out of 9 from 3-pointers from that point on. She got the bulk of her points from the foul line.
In the first quarter.
But it goes to show you that same thing. They needed more players from the standpoint of Iowa for a stacked for a stacked South Carolina
And
team.
you know what South Carolina also had, similar to what we mentioned in UConn? Depth.
Yes, yes,
They had waves of people that could come in and produce, where Iowa's their starting five, and you got to hope to get Stokey and Gabby Marshall, not Gabby Douglas, whatever her name is. I don't know what Gabby's last name, but they have two other primary scorers that can help out and support Caitlin. And then you said Caitlin doesn't come out the game. They don't have depth that they can take her out, rest her, and somebody else can come in and hold down the fort. South Carolina has two starting fives.
yeah.
UConn, two starting fives.
Yeah,
And I think
it's what happened was, adjustments were made, runs were made, and both games they were similar. And then they could never catch up. They could never catch up. It was just one of those things. Once again, South Carolina was the favorite. They were undefeated all year. Not that means anything, because Iowa knocked them off last year. In the Final Four.
But that right there, that gave South Carolina a little bit more something to play for.
Yeah.
Because this team knocked you off last year.
Yeah.
They ruined your season last year.
Yeah.
Let's go out and win a championship against them.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
it was the same incentive Iowa had to
Against
LSU.
Yeah.
It's just they reversed the roles, and
Yes.
one team got their both teams got their revenge.
Yep. Great games. It was once again broke big records for viewership for women.
They were higher than the men.
They were up to like 24 million.
That's what they peaked at.
Yeah,
They
24
averaged
million.
18, and
Uh,
they peaked at 24.
24 million.
And you want to know when I bet you that number went down? When it was obvious that Caitlin Clark wasn't going to win. Her viewers shut off the game. People started saying she's not going to win. They wanted to see her win.
Oh yeah.
By 18 million. The guys had 14. How do you beat the men's by 4 million viewers?
Yeah.
Good to see.
Yeah.
But
no,
it just shocked me that it was that much more popular.
Yeah. So now, moving forward, South Carolina, they just won their third national title.
2 out of 3, right?
No.
'Cause they
No.
lost in the Final Four.
No,
Iowa.
2017, 22, and 24. Yeah, 2 out of 3.
3.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. I was taking it like 3,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, they won in 22 and they won again in 24. So Don has got 3 as a coach, one as a player.
You got up that one in Virginia?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
One is a
the point
player.
guard, yeah.
Yes. She just recently signed the highest paid contract for a black woman, $22.4 million contract, which
Not
over
as
7
much as
years.
Gino, but for a black
As 7 years, that averages. She just beat Kim Mulkey's, because Kim Mulkey was just got one, and she upped her by like a little under $1 million, I think it is. But it's I liked what she said. While post game,
Yeah.
where
Giving
she
credit to
gave
Caitlin.
credit to Caitlin
what she's done for
and
the
what
whole
she's
game.
done. Yes.
Mm.
You listen. So there was, obviously there was a lot of a lot to do over what Diana Taurasi said. She said, basically her quote was, reality's coming. You're
with
not
a
going
18
to be
year-olds.
playing with
bunch of
18 years. You're going to be
18-year-olds.
playing with a bunch of grown women.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were relating that to hate. I didn't see it as hate. I seen that as
that's
a
the truth.
competitor.
That's the truth.
But think about it, right? I don't care what sport you playing. When there is a rookie, you want to, and they're garnering all the attention.
Level, yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
When they're garnering all the attention, you, as somebody who's established, as somebody who's been in the league, you take offense to it.
And what the media is doing is they're putting a
bullseye. Yeah,
on her back.
yeah.
Because once she gets to the WNBA, all these girls are coming at her.
Of course, of course.
But you want to know how she's already affected that? The draft is next Monday. That's going to set viewership records, even though we already know she's the first pick. It's they know Indiana's taking her. the network has already signed to broadcast 36 of her games.
Yeah, I know.
They only play 40.
90, almost 90% of their games
Yeah.
are going to be broadcast.
I was like, you only
so-
play 40 games, and
So, which,
36 are on national TV because
right.
of the Caitlin Clark experience.
all right. So this is what brings us to our next. It's a good segue over to our
And
next.
that helps the game.
It
Yeah.
does. It helps everybody in general.
Yes,
'Cause now they're getting that TV contract as well.
that's
NBA
right.
will stop losing money trying to support the WNBA.
Yep. And this is like I said, this brings us to our next the Caitlin ripple effect. So we know
Wait a minute. Can we? Are we going to ask who had the?
that's coming. That's
all
coming.
right.
That's
Okay.
coming.
I'm sorry.
That's coming. So that brings us to our next subject, the Caitlin Clark ripple effect. So obviously she's tremendously, and don't get me wrong, it started last year. All right, with the whole LSU, with the the ring, you can't see me.
Yeah.
It started last year. Though that was the seed. Everybody wanted to see the next act. We got it, right? We got LSU and we got Iowa. That was the thing we were looking for. And then obviously Caitlin Clark was the darling. She broke all the records. She smashed Pete Marage's all-time record. She every time she played, she just setting the bar higher and higher. She was just breaking her own records every time she scored a basket. This is what we got. And in turn, we got the viewership, right?
Yep.
We got the numbers.
That's what they needed the most.
Off the chart. Now she's piquing everybody's interest. Even if you didn't watch women's basketball, it was hard not to pick up a mobile device. And as soon as you pick it up, who's the first? Log on to your computer. All right.
Phone sending you updates.
Log on to your computer. All right. When you log on to your internet on your computer, your browser, right? The stories come up. Who's coming up first? Caitlin Clark, right? What will Caitlin Clark do now? What will Caitlin Clark do next? So forth and so on. And
Labeling her the GOAT.
and yes,
She's not even in pros.
Yes.
Labeling her
Well,
college.
Yeah, I didn't know if we were saving that for later in the segment, but I got different opinions about who's the GOAT of college basketball.
So I, like I said, she's brought so much notoriety to the women's
She made
game.
it exciting.
And with her style of play, with her long distance shooting, with her swag, everything that she does is obviously different from the norm from regular women's basketball. Not to mention, like I said, the thing, the sequel from last year's game. So we got it all. Now the anticipation, what she's going to do in the pros and how she's going to move when she gets into the pros. A lot of people are like, she's not going to be as good, and whatever.
It's going to be an adjustment.
Of course, it's going to be an adjustment. She's not going to take 30 shots a game as she did when she played, obviously when she was at Iowa, because you're playing with other pros. Even though it may be a team that is substantially lesser talent, they're still pros.
They'll be able to help out a lot
Yes.
more in her college.
So her shot, she's not going to get volume like she got in Iowa. She's not going to have a green light to shoot the ball 30 times. It might happen, some of the time.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to, average 30 shots a game. It's just not going to happen. But she's bringing the excitement to the NBA. Case in point, the draft is happening. When is the draft?
Monday.
Okay, so the draft is happening Monday.
already?
Yeah,
Yes.
because the season
Week
starts
later. A week later.
like a
Wow.
month after the draft.
Yes. So
May 1st is like
so-
the first game.
So they start. I thought they started after the men's. They start after the men.
Start after the men. What?
They start right after
Well,
the
the
men.
men don't end until June.
Yes, early June. They start and they go right. They
I know
go.
training camps like 2 weeks after. The
So they
draft.
go.
Something
So
crazy.
their season is only 3.5 months long.
It's
So
basically
you figure
summer.
June, July, August, September, they're done because men start in October.
Mhm.
And that's it. Then they used to go overseas,
Yeah.
and
And I'm
make
glad
their
that
money.
we don't have to worry about that no more.
Um,
They'll make enough money to stay here.
Hopefully.
But this
Oh,
is
it's
the
gonna
thing.
happen.
It's going to happen because you. So
They've
now
already made
you're
that
going
commitment
to.
with 36 games on TV. That's
It's
a big TV
sponsors.
contract.
It's sponsors. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about. That's the ripple effect.
She
That's
gets that viewership. Everybody wants their product seen
that's
with
right.
the most viewers.
That's the ripple effect that she's causing, and it's good for women across the board.
Yes.
It's only going to uplift their sport. People are like, oh, they're hating on her. They should be. No, it's just the competitiveness in them that is coming out. It's just them saying, listen, you know something? You haven't scored a point yet.
Yeah.
And we're already putting you to go. We've seen how that is played out with, who's the next Jordan? Who's the next Jordan? We went probably 40 years, with the next Jordan, the next Jordan, the next Jordan, the next Jordan. We went so many years. I mean, we saw so many guys that were labeled the next Jordan. They were flops, right?
That was too much pressure.
Exactly. To be able to
Live up to.
to be compared to a Jordan, to the guys, there's a lot of people that are just not built like that.
She handled a lot of hype this year.
Yeah, she did.
And still produced and exceeded expectations with all that pressure on it. But there's two things that are going to be synonymous with her right now. One, everybody's saying, oh, she's leaving the college game. She left the college game great because of the way she's got the attention on her. And there's so much young talent coming up. And that's going to want more and more girls that idolize her to be the equivalent of how we think young kids idolize Steph Curry. People are going to want to be the next Caitlin Clark. The college game is going to be fine without her. The pro game that I think everybody's underestimating, she's going to go to Indiana. What state does Indiana border? Oh, Iowa.
Yeah.
So
Right across the way.
yeah. So she's in the closest WNBA market to her heaviest fan base.
And they're just going to
So
make the trek over to Indiana.
Whether they win or lose, they're going to set attendance records and watch the viewership and the attendance of the games because her fans came out crazy. They had one game, I forgot where they played in some big arena that held like 50,000. It was like a football stadium or something. It was like a preseason. They sold it out.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Her
following is huge.
Yeah, it's good for the women's game. And as you said, she's leaving, but you still have a plethora of young stars. Most notably Juju. Juju scored the most points as a freshman. She broke the freshman scoring record, which leads you to believe that she could possibly do what Caitlin just did.
Yep.
So the women's game is it's in good hands. And not only is it in good hands, there's those new viewers who all of a sudden have got a newfound love for women's basketball.
Yep.
So it's all going in the right direction. It's all positive from here. And I think yes, we owe a lot to her because she brought it and basically gave the exposure that has never been given to women's
She's going to
basketball
be the
like this.
ambassador to the
Yeah.
WNBA
Yeah.
now.
My comparison was she's doing for women's college basketball, both her and Juju, what Magic and Bird did for the NBA back in 77,
she doesn't have that
78.
counterpart that's coming in at the same
No,
time.
no.
But the
They're
thing-
kind of leaving one another, but it's just you think about it. So back in 77, 78, the NBA was in big trouble.
Yeah, they were
Financially.
They were ready to fold.
Yes, they were in big trouble. And then all of a sudden, you have Larry Bird and Magic Johnson going at one another, right? And they just
Started in college. and
it
continued
started in
to
college
grow.
and it
And
just
ironically,
flopped over.
they played against each other in the national championship.
Yes, and then
That's
and
crazy.
then
Nobody heard of Indiana State
Yes.
before Larry Bird.
and then all of a sudden, 3 years later, they're going at it again in the NBA.
I know. Yeah.
And they just it just rolled. And I think this is what's going to happen here. I think you got Reese, she's going over. You've got
That's just it. There was so much more star power
Yes.
besides Caitlin. She
Yes.
was the top dog.
I have a question for you, both of you. You might get it, but do you guys know who Diasia Fair is?
Yeah, from Syracuse. She was she was the leading scorer
And she's in the top 5 scoring all time.
yeah,
No, but nobody talks about her.
because her team didn't win. Like
Yes.
her team,
If
I think they lost in the first round of UConn.
That was the second or third round.
No, it was first or second.
No, it was
Oh no,
second or
they
third.
played somebody local first round, and then they played Syracuse in the second.
And
Because
and
after the
just-
second,
and
now you're
UConn-
at the Sweet 16.
UConn just barely beat them. They only beat them by 6.
Syracuse.
Yeah, they beat them by 6.
You know what her or Daesh Shafir's totals were in that game?
Not
Because she's going to be in the draft.
That's
Then-
what I'm saying. Like,
Then you got the girl who played at Tennessee. That's supposed to be the second draft pick.
Mhm.
I forgot her name, but she's incredible. Scoring, rebounding.
Yeah.
She can handle the ball. There's a lot. They're predicting Angel Reese to be the 7th pick.
yes, 6th or 7th.
Yeah. How do you, she was a national champion last year, but they got the girl from Stanford who's a rebounder and
she's
shot
supposed to be number
blocker and
3.
inside scorer. Yep. So if them 2, 3, Fair's gonna go higher than I think what you call it.
Yep.
But there's a couple of girls. I think the WNBA and the college level is both in better places right now because of the season we just witnessed.
Yep.
And the cupboard's not bare in college. There's still enough in college that we're going to tune in again next year because we all want to see what Juju's going to do.
Yeah.
Hell, the UConn women just got the #1 ranked recruit, Sarah
a
Strong.
day after they lost.
Yeah. And guess what? She's from North Carolina. No,
Yep.
North Carolina, South. How'd she get away?
Yeah. I think South Carolina, has been relevant since Don Stanley's been there.
Gotta give
UConn
her flowers.
UConn is built a legacy. UConn is basically the UCLA of basketball with championships
Me too, Meg.
and stuff
Yep,
like that.
The first W because it's so deep.
Yeah.
Before there was only 2 or 3 people that were in question that you knew about, and then you
And
didn't
they-
know anybody
yeah.
else.
Yeah.
We'll know people well into the second round because there's only like 12 or 14 teams.
Yeah. And this is the ripple effect. This is,
I see expansion coming soon. Now that they're going to start making money in the next 2 years, they'll be adding more
Yeah.
teams.
we're getting a lot of people that are saying, okay, it's mine too. I'm going to tune in. I can honestly say I've watched the women's basketball.
Yeah.
I like
Familiar
watching
with
it.
their players.
Yes. I like watching it. Honestly, more so when the tournament comes. But have I ever watched the WNBA draft? No, but I'll be tuning in to see where
Now,
they go.
Have you ever made it a point to watch a WNBA game?
I didn't
Or-
even make it a point to watch the college unless UConn and Tennessee were playing,
Yeah,
or
top
UConn
teams.
and South. Yeah,
and
I
two.
waited to the Final
1
Four
and
to
2,
watch
2 and 3
because those teams were so head and shoulders above everybody. In the UConn and Tennessee days, we knew them 2 teams were going to the championship.
Think about it.
Yes.
Then there was Stanford. Then Notre Dame had a run. But other than that,
Just look at the games this year in the tournament. The first 2-3 rounds pretty much. are
there
all
was
football.
legit 8 to 10 teams that had a chance to win the championship.
Yeah.
If things fell right for them. If they got hot on a certain day, any of those teams could beat any of those. Hell, South Carolina almost lost. Was it in their conference
the
tournament?
conference final.
They last second shot by Cardozo,
Yeah.
the 6'7"
The
girl.
person who only took 2 the whole entire year
Yeah.
and didn't make
She-
one.
She had to make that to go play against LSU in the finals
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
Against-
almost lost
against-
that
against
season.
Tennessee.
You need a little bit of luck. Yeah. And
That was against
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
I can't remember that girl's name, but I'm telling you, she's all that and then some. She's
Yeah.
going to be the second pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And then
So
you got Cardozo in the draft. Oh man, you got so many good people.
so this like I said, this was a result of Caitlin Clark. There's no way you can get around it. People are already crowning her the GOAT.
That's
That's the
too
next
early.
topic I want to get into.
It's too early for that.
Way too
um,
early.
Is she the GOAT of college basketball? It depends. It's parameters how because
Because
the best
I-
scorer always isn't the GOAT.
How do you
Right.
how do you become the GOAT? You don't have no national championship.
There's
gotta
there's
win.
parameters.
You
There's
gotta
parameters.
win.
You would have to set
In every
the,
other sport, they say if you don't win, you can't be the GOAT.
there's parameters that you'd have to set. Okay, you would have to obviously look at your winning percentages, titles, scoring. There's a lot of things. But to crown her as the GOAT, and transform that into the WNBA, it's disrespectful to the players who are there. It's disrespectful to the whole, all the superstars that are there, and this is the reason for the pushback. And everybody's like, "Oh, they're hating on her." No,
It's
it's
creating
just,
a whole nother dialogue.
it's-
Because now this
it's
is
just-
the shit that
It's-
the shit that DT did, Diana Taurasi did. Like
yes.
when she was
She's
there.
one of the people because you won all the time. But to me, how do you discredit Brianna Stewart?
Yeah,
4
exactly.
years.
Listen, won 4
She
years.
won 4 championships.
Yes,
She was
exactly.
the most
Most
valuable
valuable
player
player.
in all 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
That and she played on a much more talented team than Caitlin Clark. She had to share the ball. I think one year she played with Maya Moore, but there was other dominant women on that team.
I think she came after Maya Moore.
Yeah, but I think she was a freshman when Maya Moore was a senior. I think they might have played 1 year.
I want to
but
say Maya Moore.
they had
I could be
was
wrong.
Rebecca Lobo there?
Nah,
No, that was way
came
before.
Before
Way
Yeah,
before.
Rebecca Lobo was before Maya.
I'm
Moore.
trying to think who else was on the team with.
Sorry.
If you Google who was on the team with Brianna Stewart, you're gonna see talent galore.
I want to say it was Taurasi. No,
Nah, Taurasi
No,
was at the
no.
beginning.
Yeah.
I was
No.
yeah,
But it doesn't make a difference.
but even
it's just-
Taurasi, I think
it's just the competitive.
Cheryl Swoops and
It's the-
Cheryl Miller.
It's the competitiveness out of these people who are, these people who are speaking up, and it's the competitive nature, and of course they're going to have to say something about it. She hasn't scored a point yet, so how could you
No, she's very talented.
put her as the GOAT?
But to me, she's the greatest scorer we've ever seen.
Yes,
But I can't say she's the greatest player because she's never won, not even one title.
yeah, it's tough. But as a result of her, women's basketball is in a very very great.
Both
Position.
college and pro.
Yes. All right. So the next question is, all right, who had the tougher road to the national championship? Was it the UConn men or the South Carolina women?
I'm gonna tell you this right now, in my opinion, and it is like totally off. Well, not totally off subject, but the toughest road to the national championship has to be Iowa.
Yeah, they played everybody big.
Iowa's had the toughest road to the national.
Well, no. I'm talking about the champions.
Yeah.
Okay.
The champions.
I would say-
Iowa's
I
not a
would-
champion.
I would say I don't know.
I'll
'cause
weigh in on that.
UConn, that they beat everybody by double digits,
But they had to go out to the west. They had to travel the furthest.
but they beat everybody by double digits.
so
did.
let's talk about something.
But
all right?
that doesn't mean
Let's
it
talk
wasn't the toughest. They just played way better than everybody.
Let's talk about the similarities. Both teams were pretty much ranked number 1 for most of the year.
Carolina,
for
South Carolina wasn't even number 1 at the beginning, I think, because they had 5 new.
And this is
Returning
another point.
people.
This
Yep.
is another point I'm
That's why I
getting
said
at.
they had to hire.
This is another point I'm getting at. There was a huge turnover for both teams.
Yep.
For both teams, the men and the women.
Credit to both.
It's not like you had, 3 out of the 4 or 4 out of the 5 or everybody returning. There was a huge turnover and people that left. So that's another similarity you got to take into consideration. All right. The South Carolina women, I think they were seen as more of a favorite than UConn.
by the end of the year, yeah,
Yes, they were pretty much running
because of the undefeated
roughshod.
thing.
Yes, they were pretty much think about it, the only close game that they had was
Tennessee.
that Tennessee game where they were actually down,
Yeah,
and they
way
had
to
the
win.
last shot. Yeah. Other than that, the average margin of victory was high teens. It was literally like 16 or 17
They played
points.
UConn in the regular season. UConn was a Final Four team. They blew them the hell out.
Yes.
I had to stop watching the game at halftime.
Yeah.
And at that time, UConn hadn't suffered all their injuries yet. Like they were a little strong, but the team they had in the Final Four was decimated, but they were playing very well.
Yeah.
But I think Ozzie Fudd was already gone, but maybe 1 or 2 of the other girls were still there. I think they had to go to South Carolina, and it was a whooping.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm going to say that I think South Carolina had a harder grind, and I'm not discrediting UConn, is South Carolina's grind started from day 1 of the season because they lost all 5 starters.
Yep.
So the transfer portal, the new freshmen, you had to get people to buy into a system in 1 year.
Yeah.
UConn was similar, but they still had Tristan Newton from last year, and they still had Klingon was a freshman, but he didn't play a lot last year. And they had somebody else return that was good. but they both those teams used the transfer portal. I didn't know that for South Carolina that Pow Pow was a senior. I thought she was a freshman because it was the first year I saw her on the team.
Oregon.
Transferred 3 years from Oregon. She
Yep.
played her 4th year. There was another girl that transferred in on the team. Cardozo started at Syracuse.
Yeah.
She's only been there the last 2 years.
so
She's done for transfer.
so
for a national championship.
well let's put it this way, right? The transfer portal can be a coach's worst nightmare, or it can be a coach's best friend.
Yeah.
And obviously coaches don't like it if you're on the exiting end, but if you're on the incoming end, you're loving it.
Yes.
Haven't
loving
the
it.
coaches had the transfer portal in their benefit forever? They can leave whenever
Yeah.
they want.
Show
Players
me-
couldn't leave because they
show-
couldn't play if they transferred.
show me $1 more. Show me literally, I shouldn't say $1 more. Show me a $500,000, 350, whatever more. I'll see you later. I'm gone. I'm gone.
NIL
it
deals are in
happened.
play.
Yes.
Playing time. Haley
You're
Lick
not-
is leaving. She's got an NIL deal. She's
Yeah.
all set.
Yeah. Yep.
But she wants to go somewhere to get a championship to build her personal profile. That's the only reason she left Louisville to go to LSU.
'cause
But she was a shooting guard last year. She played point guard this year, and she wasn't as good as a point guard as she was a shooting guard. She's transferring, and I guarantee she's going somewhere where she'll go back to playing off guard, and she's going to go to a top 4 contending team because winning the championship is huge for her.
Now the players have they have the ball in their court now.
They're
They're
sitting in the
no
fence.
longer bound by, okay, if you
Not like that.
transfer, you got to sit out a
Because
year.
the coaches never had to sit out. There
Exactly.
was never no
Um,
penalties. The coach would leave. Coach would cause all the reasons why, like stipulations. What do they call it when you violate the rules? Sanctions.
Sanctions.
It would be because illegal recruiting, giving money to the kids. They were the reason, and then they would leave, and the kids left behind would pay the price.
Yeah.
Now the kids don't have to do that. Oh, we got sanctions. I'm gone.
Calipari.
I'm gone.
Imagine being on a program who just was who just got
Put on probation.
got violations, and they're like, okay, what you're going to be exempt from postseason play for the next year, and
Kids are
then
like,
you
"Nope,
be
I got
evaluated, whatever.
opportunities."
But pre-transfer portal,
Oh yeah, you had nothing. You can do nothing about it. No exposure in the tournament.
that's like
No
2
TV
lost
time.
years. That's like 2 lost years because you're not getting anything the first year, and now you got to wait to transfer to get out. That's like
Yeah.
2 lost years.
Yep. Meanwhile, the coach can just be like, I'm just going to resign here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still under contract, and then
I'll go
I'll go coach somewhere else.
So yeah, it's the players, they have a lot of the power back, which I think rightfully so. For years, like you said, the coaches, it's always been them, and now even if it's if you're not pleased with the playing time, you can say, okay, someone might be better than me, but in your eyes, let me go and showcase my talent somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah.
where I can
I'm my own best product. I got to show people that I'm worth an NIL deal.
Yeah.
I'm worth a high draft pick.
it's so the value now is so much more because of the NIL deals.
Look what just happened with Bronny James. He has the highest NIL deal. He had a horrible freshman year, and I'll give some credit to the physical condition, but you're talking about not only going in the portal, he's going in the portal and entering his name in the draft. You're not ready for the draft, sir. If your father was anybody but LeBron, but you have the ability to market yourself to the best offer out there. If he goes to another program, the NIL deals go with him, and he's going to bring that attention he gets because of his father. He's not going to contribute as a player. I can't, even in high school, I think he was 6th man. Like he wasn't, he was the 3rd option. He was the 3rd highest scorer, but he wasn't. the best player.
After he started his junior and senior year, but he wasn't the best player.
Nope.
It's I think the NIL deals change a lot of things. I think now, before I didn't see it as a collegiate career, because there wasn't anything unless you made it to the pros.
Yep.
Now you can have a professional career in college.
So you think they're gonna start putting last names on jerseys now? because they didn't. They
Yeah,
couldn't
that was the
afford-
big reason they did it before.
Well, it
Because-
depends on what team you play for. Some teams put them on. Some people teams don't.
No, but when they sell them, they couldn't be
couldn't
no
make
name.
Oh, yeah,
no
yeah,
money
yeah,
off
yeah,
their
yeah,
own
yeah.
name.
Couldn't
Oh,
put no
yeah.
names on them.
Yeah. But you got to remember, if you put a name on them and you sell them, the athlete's going to get money.
But they couldn't. They
I-
couldn't
yeah, no,
back
no,
then.
You know why I don't want to see names on the college jerseys? Because to me, it's more about the program you represent on the front.
Yeah.
And that should get first attention. You're going there playing in a team atmosphere. The names on the back kind of bring more individual attention. We know the numbers. We know the players' faces. We know who they are without their names. I'd like to see that aspect stay off because you're playing for the name on the front of your jersey, not the name on your back.
If you want people to know your name, ball out.
Yeah, we know all the. Did we have to see Caitlin Clark's name on it?
Ball out. That's all you got to do. Just ball out. You know, it'll come with your own accolades if you're doing well. It'll take care of itself. But I can't stress it. NIL is at a totally different level right now.
In all sports, because that's the reason I felt like Nick Saban retired, because now
Yeah.
he didn't have the
Yeah.
upper hand in recruiting. He didn't have the upper
That's
hand.
not, you don't have to
to
think.
win.
That is the reason why he retired.
Yes.
Yeah.
He came out and said it pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't have the power. He said the kids weren't.
Georgia was already getting close.
Yeah.
The whole SEC was getting close.
Georgia was right there.
Clemson's had a couple of nice runs. They're all 1 or 2 players away, and you got this advantage, and they're still nipping at your heels. They don't have the same advantages you have. So it's getting harder and harder to compete. So let me get out now while everybody thinks I'm still great. 2 more years, and everybody else is beating me for 2 or 3 more years.
At least he got out when the good was going good,
Mhm.
and he didn't suffer the Bill Belichickitis.
Right. And I'm glad because
That's
I
his
remember
boy.
Nick
They're
Saban
boys.
Yes,
as being
yes.
the
They were both
best
at
college
Cleveland.
coach I've ever seen in college football.
Yes. You know, and not a lot of people can actually make that. You know, there's always that, I can do it again next season. I can do it again next
Yeah,
season.
ego.
I can do it
always
again
hits
next season. I can do it again next season. It's almost like the pro player that thinks they're always going to get another contract. I can get another contract. I can get it. And you're getting older and older and your skills are decreasing. It doesn't always happen that way. It really doesn't. So yeah, it is what it is for that. All right. So we'll move on. We'll talk about another college issue here. Kentucky search for a new coach. Calipari bolted, and he's off to Arkansas. It was a little weird when the announcement came. Literally happened at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Mhm.
A
So usually we hear a rumor about
I ain't
Arkansas is trying to lure somebody away.
I ain't gonna lie. As soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh, Kentucky's gonna go on probation."
yeah, well, that's what everybody
As soon as I
thinks,
said- as soon
because
as I heard it.
because of the rumblings always around.
Yeah.
And typically when stuff like that happens, the coaches do both.
It's not the first time.
But the
it's
thing,
not-
yeah, I know. But the thing is, you look at the college program, right? You're going from Kentucky to Arkansas.
Arkansas,
Not blue blood to blue blood.
Arkansas hasn't been
You're going from
irrelevant since Colas Williams.
let me say it again. You're going from Kentucky to
Oh, I know.
Arkansas.
I know.
Okay. And the thing is,
And it's in the SEC.
yeah, it's a lateral move. It's a lateral move to the side. So the rumors, obviously the rumors were, there were a lot of people that were unhappy with Cal. You can
The way he
you
won when he
can
won.
you can create a great NBA player, but you're not doing anything for our program in the way of bringing national champions. And let's face it,
or getting kids an education.
The
One
last-
and done. One and done.
the
one and
last 2 times he's played in the NCAAs, he's lost to a
done.
he's lost to a
Oakland.
double digit lower seed. I believe it was
Oakland was
11
14.
11 and 14.
Mhm.
And he hasn't done anything. You've had a lot of great players come through there, and
Can't keep them.
you can't keep them, and the program isn't doing well. It isn't as if the program is doing well and you've got great players, and you're not producing come tournament time. We're not even talking about just winning a game. He has failed in his last 2 times to win, to get out of the first round.
That's crazy.
That's bad. That's bad.
big school like
Yes.
can't get
And
first
so
round.
yeah, we know that the a lot of the boosters were unhappy with him, and he even went on the record saying that I may have to change my recruiting style to get players to commit to be able to stay a little longer than a year, because the mid majors were definitely catching up to the blue bloods, because obviously they had kids that are playing for 2, 3, 4 years together, and here we go, they're 21, 22, and these kids are 17 and 18. Yeah, they might have been McDonald's All-Americans coming in, but these kids are physically
Grown men.
yes, they're physically grown.
Grown men playing against 18.
And more importantly, they have a chemistry.
Yeah.
They've been playing together longer.
Yeah.
These kids are coming out of and it just wasn't meshing. The big thing was obviously the a lot of people are pointing towards Kentucky. They're saying that a lot of their training facilities in it are outdated. They don't have they have a lot of outdated their gym, their
Facilities.
their weight room, everything. And that's hard to believe, seeing that they were considered one of the blue bloods. You think that they would be on top of things, and most importantly, the NIL money. Kentucky football brings nothing to the table, where Arkansas is almost $7 million. In today's day and age with NIL, you need to be relevant in that area.
Yep.
And they aren't. I think that was one of the big draws for him to go laterally sideways. He's probably saying, you know something? I might lose some people because it's not a blue blood, but what I may be able to offer with NIL money, I can make up the gap. I can make that gap up.
And with his reputation, even
Yeah.
though he hasn't won since 2015,
Yeah.
he still is producing. He's selling that pipe dream to kids about, I can get you to the NBA the quickest. Look at my track record. Whether he was winning or losing, he has first round picks every year, multiple first round picks.
Yeah.
Hell, the kid Dillingham just went hardship. They're predicting him to be the third pick in the draft. He was the sixth man. Rob Dillingham.
He reminds me.
2015, was that with Booker?
I don't know what year. I just know that was the year that they won it last, but I can't remember who was on that.
He reminds me so much of Maxey, the way he
With that
plays.
Dillingham kid?
Yeah.
I didn't
He
know he was
reminds me so
6'3". I thought he was shorter.
He reminds me so much of Maxey, how he gets downhill, how he pulls
You
up.
think he's as fast as Maxey? Maxey's a blur on the
Oh yeah,
floor.
Maxey, yeah, Maxey. But they
They
gain.
both
He
have
even
the
got the,
ability to
he even
get
has
their
the
own
same
shot off.
hairstyle, and they're built similar. They're thin, and but every time I look at him, I want I liken his game to Maxey. But yeah, it's one of those things that you didn't see it coming. I thought that maybe another year. Maybe redeem himself, have a better, a better overall showing in the tournament. But he chose to, to flee. I think, when it's all said and done, I think he sees the writing on the wall. Like, yeah, you know what? I probably can't get those kids, because the kids that I'm going after are the one and done.
Similar to Nick Saban, the NIL is affecting his ability to stay competitive. So there's some big money boosters behind the Arkansas program. So he feels that's going to keep him relevant in the recruiting war, because now the NIL money is the main thing. But Brian just made reference to him making a lateral move. And it's not really a lateral move. He's getting $7 million guaranteed. He was making 8.5 at Kentucky. So you're making $1.5 million less to make a move to a smaller program, but that NIL must be so powerful that you can make up that money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Some allegations, bro. It's got to be coming. You'll hear it.
Yeah, but if he was to get fired, his money's guaranteed.
Yeah, they would have to pay him
He
anyway.
had years left on his contract.
They would have to pay him anyway.
But I'm saying, with allegations, he can't do nothing at Kentucky, but he can do whatever he wants at Arkansas or anywhere else.
I think so with the whole allegation things, I think if there was something there, it would have been leaked already. I don't think that he would have. I would definitely think that it would have been leaked already.
Yeah, know what he's worried about? Did he?
He was touched. He was at the Diddy parties.
He
I,
brought the
I honestly
He
think,
brought the girls.
and I would think that the school would be so salted that they would put a release out.
Yeah,
You just don't let a guy walk without any repercussions.
especially a guy like that.
Yeah, you just, for me, I don't think you just let him walk without any repercussions. And that's it for me. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, because we talked about the reasons he left Kentucky to go to Arkansas. Who's going to replace him at Kentucky? That's still a high-profile gig. That could be one of the most lucrative deals for somebody, most high-exposure places to coach. They're expected to win. Who are the top candidates?
That's just it.
Do people not want the job? I thought they'd have somebody ready to go. They'd go to any coach in the country and say, "You want the Kentucky head coaching job?"
Well, Hurley
Hey,
said no.
There's a
Early's doing better at UConn.
Yeah.
there's,
why would he leave?
there's a guy that just quit that has a pretty not a high profile, but he was getting there.
Just quit college ball.
He quit coaching. He had a big
just
contract.
broadcast.
No, Mr. Ed Cooley.
I don't think he's high profile. enough for
I don't.
Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready for that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready. And he said he's going to take a year off anyway. So,
But
Yeah, because there was no jobs at that point.
no. So the candidates, obviously, most notably was Jay Wright.
he has to come out of retirement.
He
But he said he just
he
didn't
said-
want to coach no more.
yeah, he was burnt.
Mhm.
He was burnt, and everybody's, from the sounds of it, everybody's saying that he enjoys what he does, less stress. All around, he just loves his
You don't
job.
have to recruit.
And your guy over in Chicago,
Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan.
He's not going.
He said he loves the NBA. He's staying.
He's not going anywhere.
But also Scott Drew at Baylor.
Yes,
who
he
took
already-
the program.
He already
said he's-
declined. He already declined.
Well, he's declined once, but sometimes
He
money
declined.
can influence people.
Oh, he did.
And there's a dark horse who I think might get the job. He hasn't denied him yet. But do you remember Chris Beard, who recently was fired at Texas
Yep.
for false allegations of sexual assault? He got fired during the investigation. Then come to find out
That
he
was-
didn't do it.
Yeah.
And from his own wife. So he went from Texas Tech, I believe, or somebody like that,
Yeah.
to Texas and had Texas as a top 5 team. And then he had to give up that job. Now he's coaching somewhere else right now. He's at another high profile position right now, but it's not Kentucky. They wanted to go after Scott Drew and Chris Beard, but Scott Drew, they're like, why? He's already built the program up. Baylor's in a better position than Kentucky right now. They're getting top recruits. Hell, they got 2 people that might go in the first round this year that are one and dones. So what's the difference? And I never heard no controversy at Baylor since Scott Drew took it over. So I think they're going to want a clean cut, no distractions type coach over there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they gave Chris Beard a shot because he was taken away from a high profile job through no fault of his own. And he's a great coach.
It's not a bad choice.
Is there anybody else out there? I don't think Jay Wright's coming.
I don't think so either.
Who else did we mention? Billy Donovan's not coming.
Honestly, if I were Billy Donovan, I would probably think about it.
Well, what's Billy Donovan making as an NBA coach? Because
Well, that would be the draw, right? Let's look at what Billy Donovan's done the last 2 to 3 years. What has he done? Say it.
Nothing.
All right. So if
But he's still getting paid.
lose
let's look at it from this point.
Milwaukee
Okay?
ain't done shit.
How much longer are you
Championship.
going to lose and still be employed? All right. Where you can start fresh. And if you match my money or more, all right.
more time to make that top dollar because I'm
If you match
a
my
3-year
NBA
window.
salary and and give me, say, hey, listen, I want a 4-year plan.
Yep.
I want a 4-year plan because these kids are not mine.
Yeah, I have to
Right.
build the program.
Give me 4 years and match my salary, and I'll throw some incentives in there if we win one game, something that the last coach failed to do in his last 2 appearances.
Yeah.
If I win one game, if I make it to the, if I make, those will be incentives for me to, to get bonuses. All right. How many more years? I mean, let's just face it. How many more years is he going to be in the loser spot and be guaranteed a job? You can only lose so much
Yeah.
And that's
before
the
you
risk I
become.
wouldn't take. If somebody gave me the 4-year
If
platform,
you give me the same amount of money
you
or
might not
more
make it 2 years more.
or
Yeah.
more, all right. I'm you know what? I'm going to see the writing on the wall. I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I don't care. I do not care. Because let's face it, look what he did when he was in Florida. Florida was not a basketball program. They were not a basketball program.
Football,
No.
football and baseball.
Exactly. So he has the wherewithal to change the program around. And quite honestly, Kentucky kind of speaks for itself. You don't need a whole lot of selling. I don't believe. And like I said, how many more years of losing are you gonna roll the dice and to say, okay, I might wake up and I might not have a job. I think for me, I think that's probably the most logical, with just the people that we've named. I think that's the most logical one, only because of the position that he's in now.
He should be willing to listen.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Everybody should be willing to listen.
Yeah, well,
Well,
it's
some
all about
people, they
numbers.
built up. They're comfortable. Scott Drew's probably comfortable at Baylor.
It's all about numbers. It's all about numbers, right? And Baylor, just think about it. Their facilities are off the chart.
Yep.
Are off the chart. You see what footballers brought for them. Their facilities are bar none. They showed their facilities. It's just off the chart.
So then basically Oregon should never have to worry about it.
Yeah, they got Nike.
Yeah, that's a big draw right there. But for me, Billy Donovan, out of the people that we mentioned, I think he's more at risk to be let go by the Bulls and be unemployed than anyone else. Like I said, how many more?
Rebuilding
How
job
many?
there.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's been there how many years already?
6,
At least
7.
Right?
Yeah, and
Has he won?
he hasn't. He hasn't.
So why would you think the team's got reinvested into you? You don't have nothing to show from the time you
eventually-
go to a new spot.
Eventually, they're going to point at him, and
Somebody gotta be a
and if he doesn't start winning like fast, more or not is going to be him.
Doc Rivers is gone soon. Man.
Doc Rivers, what?
He should be gone soon. That team sucks.
I mean, it is what it is, but
I'm sorry.
I mean, just think about it. He hasn't
done
done
shit.
much.
Is he 500 at
Who?
least? Doc?
14 and 13. They just showed a comparison. They fired a guy that was 30 and 13
Yeah.
to hire somebody who's because they both had 13 losses, but Doc Rivers only has 14 wins with 13
That's
losses.
crazy.
Yeah, that's
I can't say I agreed with that either, but
that's one of our subjects coming up. So, all right, so we'll transition from that to Orenthal. All right, so OJ passed away today, and
R.I.P.
I wasn't even aware that he was going through it that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian mentioned that you saw stuff at Christmas and putting out a public service announcement.
But
I didn't know that he was that far along
he's
in the
not.
danger.
He's not in the media like that anymore.
well, the thing was, so if you remember and recall, right, when he was in prison, he tried to use that as a medical, early release, and they weren't going for it. So it was always there. It may have gone into remission. I don't know. But unfortunately, he passed today.
76 years old. So
Yes, he passed today, and we want to know what is his legacy now.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I think today's kids would never know because it happened over 30 years ago.
First great running back I remember.
I think you would have to be somebody who was of that era to give a definitive answer, because you watched him. If you didn't watch him in college, you watched him in the pros. You watched his career as a player, as an announcer. You watched him as a spokesperson. And then
movie star.
a movie star. Yep. And and then you watch his decline. Obviously, what went on with his wife and her
Ron Goldman.
partner. Um, and now it's when people talk about OJ Simpson, you, you don't talk about football.
No.
You talk about his legal issues that he had, and I'll be the first one to say I thought he was guilty. I thought he was guilty. It got that whole thing got built up to me as a race thing because of the riots that had gone on and stuff. That was all you got to remember. That was all part of the time with um, what's that guy's
That got
name?
dragged out of the truck.
Rodney King?
Yeah, Rodney King. It was all part of it. That all happened in the same era, the same
Same area,
time,
Area too.
same area, same time, same state.
Same.
It all happened. So there was a lot of racial tension going on. And it set the stage for here we are, a black athlete who was, a media darling, who was loved, up until then. I mean, you think about it, he was like the All-American USC, then transitioned over into the NFL, became one of the greatest running backs. And then it just kept going for him. And like I said, the racial tension, it was a divide. It was a divide. I just looked at things, from not from black and white, but what evidence was presented. And to me, all signs were like, okay, OJ, you did it.
They never had a number two person. Once he got cleared, they never looked for whoever else it was supposed to be.
Yeah. But the sad thing about it was that there were innocent lives that were taken in the prime.
Parent taken away from their
Yes.
children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it all happened, at they were young. They were very young. The people who were murdered, they were very young, and they had family too.
I don't even think they were in their 30s. If they
Um,
were, it was early 30s.
I think she might have been in her early 30s.
She's younger than him.
No, I know she's
No,
younger than him. but
no, I'm
when
saying
it
that
happened,
the
she had to be
waiter, he was younger.
Oh yeah.
I think she was in her early 30s. But it doesn't make a difference anyway. Like I said, I always believe that he did kill both of them. It was never proved. I think defense, the defense team did a great job. I think the DAs did a horrible job.
Yep.
With the glove, how the hell are you going to bring a glove out over a year with, that was saturated in blood, that was sitting in evidence, and then try to put it on a guy who had been in basically, wasn't doing anything physical. So of course he was gaining weight, and you're going to try to put it on him. I think that was like, obviously that's, don't do that 101 now in law. But now when like I said, now when we tend to talk about him, we don't talk about him in the same light as football. We talk more about his legal stuff. So like I said, for legacy, you're gonna see people, just think about it. What was that, 94, 93 that had happened? If
92.
if you think about it, right? If that happened now with all the social media, just think about it, right? His Bronco being chased down the expressway in LA with like 50 cops behind him, him in the back seat with a gun to his head, while his partner's, on the cell phone saying, "Back off!" He's got a gun to his head. Just think about the frenzy that would be, how it would be today. We didn't have social media back then. So it was portrayed in a whole different light. But you actually got to see it in that light because it all interrupted live TV. Came on live TV.
Every channel.
Every channel
Came on
had it.
every channel.
Yeah, every channel had it. So yeah, it was something to behold. But his legacy, I think his legacy as a football player was wiped out. Had he had not been inducted into the Hall of Fame before, he probably wouldn't have gone in. I would say he wouldn't have gotten
I
it.
feel like you got to separate. There was two different time periods of life, two different lifestyles. What he did on the field was worthy of a Hall of Fame career.
Oh yeah, because it was.
Well,
He was inducted. He was. You got to remember, he was inducted before all this stuff.
Yeah,
but I can say something that happened with another player that not in the Hall of Fame.
But I'm not saying. I'm saying, does he have a legacy? OJ has a legacy. Who's the player? Are you comparing this player's career with OJ's career?
Yeah,
Who?
Pete
Pete
Rose.
Rose. I know you're gonna say that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't bet when he was playing. He bet as a coach.
Well, I can agree with that.
Well, so this is the thing, right? So I think his legacy, ultimately your legacy is your legacy until you're dead.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, are we looking at Dave Meggett the same way we looked at Dave
Nope.
Meggett? No, right?
Not even close.
Right?
But
We're not
He
looking
was
at
a
him
different
the same way.
person after his football playing days than he was during his playing days.
Here we go with
Same
O.J.
thing with
Simpson.
OJ.
But
Same
the,
thing with Pete
but,
Rose.
But the thing is, right? I think your legacy follows you until the day you die, ultimately,
Mhm.
because people are going to cast opinion on you all the way into, they mean, oh, he's a great player. He was a great player, like Hernandez, right? He was a great player when he was on the field. The stuff that he did while he was off the field wasn't worthy of it.
That's why I separated. I loved him as a player. I didn't like him as a human being. Same thing you say about R. Kelly.
Yeah.
I love his music. I don't like some of the choices he's made, but he's a great producer of music. Pete Rose was the all-time leader in hits.
Yeah.
I love that what they accomplished on the playing field and in
We
the
can never-
arenas, but I can't respect them as people.
We can never erase what they did while they were, at the peak and the height of their career. But people can choose, to cancel them as a result of what they did post, fame. And that's why I say I think your legacy, people, once you stop playing, a lot has to do with it. A lot has to do with your legacy moving forward, what you do after. You know what I'm saying? I think a great example, it's not obviously as crazy as this. I think a great case in point, for a local legend here in Massachusetts, that played for the Boston Red Sox was Jim Rice. So Jim Rice, as we know, got in on his final and last straw.
Yeah.
And can we look at Jim Rice and say, okay, he didn't have Hall of Fame worthy stats? Jim Rice had some great stats.
When you said it, I'm thinking, wait a minute.
He had some great, but you got to remember, Jim Rice was an a-hole.
He
was an a-hole with the stat. And who inducts you into the Hall of Fame? The writers.
Is it just the writers?
No, it's the writers. It's the writers. The sports writers get votes, and then you've got people who are already in the Hall.
In the Hall, they get.
All right.
Oh, okay.
And so you have, but the writers hold a huge amount of power in that. And if you're being an a-hole to me, all right, and you don't want to give me an interview or you don't want to give me a soundbite, I remember that. And is there not a lot of nepotism? Is there not a lot of nepotism in sports journalism? There's a lot
especially in the Boston area.
Period. If you look at a lot of the sports writers, it's always grandfathers, sons, and it gets passed down.
Yeah.
And they don't let it forget. They ride it on to the next generation. And the reason why I believe Jim Rice got into journalism, sports broadcasting, so he could change his whole persona.
Because he doesn't look like the asshole or anything.
No. So now you got to be in front of the thing, and this is it. So with legacy literally follows you all the way to your dead. I firmly believe that. You're going to be judged, and unfortunately your personal life is going to be lumped in with your professional life. And this is why I think when you talk about OJ, because of what went on, I think a lot of people were turned off, and it won't end in a good fashion for him. What his legacy, yes, you have to say, okay, what he did as a player, but ultimately you have to look at what he did too, post football career. And I think, like I said, the kids nowadays, they'll never know because they didn't. But if you're old enough, if you're in your 40s, late 40s, 50s, 40s plus, I think you can give an honest answer on it. Um, because like I said, you watched them either play, in the pros, in college, and then you got to see, ultimately all what happened in the early '90s all the way up until now. And he didn't make matters any better because he. I don't think he had any PR people because he tried to write a book off of it
Not too many
and
people.
monetize off of it. Um, it was ugly, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, it's just one of those things that, for me, I think everything that he created on the field was wiped away as a result of his, what transpired with the double murder case.
Yep.
It's hard. It's hard. It really is. It's hard. But legacy, I think legacy, people seem that okay, legacy ends with what you did. No, people tend to follow you because let's face it, right? There's alumni. You get invited back to, hey, nobody was inviting him back to USC for greatest running backs. Ain't nobody ever saying, okay, we're gonna have you at a book signing. How many people do you think would have went? How many people do you think would have gone?
Now here's a question. Do you think that he caught a lot of that slack because he killed two white people? More
I said it was racial.
Yeah, I know, but
It turned racial
because
the '90s was a very volatile time.
Ray Lewis
in
got
LA.
accused of killing somebody, but it wasn't a white person.
Yeah, but so Ray Lewis never killed anyone. You're getting a little skewed there. It was he
But
hid crucial evidence.
so he's an accessory.
Yes, he wasn't up for murder. That's totally different. But so yeah, so you got to think about it. Some of the things that he did post that trial and stuff, and he didn't make matters. So he got off from one of the biggest murder trials in the history of the United States, where we know race played a lot into it because it was a black man with a white woman, and a white male. He got off, right? Instead of living the picture perfect life, what does he do? He goes and gets caught up and goes into a hotel and tries to recover some memorabilia that was his with guns. And ultimately they said, you know what, we didn't catch you this time, but we got you this time, buddy.
Stupid.
That's a classic case of somebody thinking that they were empowered because I got away with it once. And let's face it, right? O.J. Simpson wasn't. He wasn't, O.J. Simpson that went back and helped the black community.
That's what I was going to bring up. Like
O.J. Simpson wasn't,
after his first marriage, he went totally engulfed himself to the white community.
Yes, he was
because he was accepted by them since the USC days.
He
knew he could.
He wasn't someone that says, "Okay, let me go back to Southern California."
Let me help inner city youth.
Yes,
no,
he was far from that. And
rubbing shoulders with the Hollywood elite.
Yeah. And if you choose to do that, that's fine. It's
Don't
fine.
look for our support later when you're in trouble.
Yeah. And sadly, he got it though. He got it because it was a racial divide with the Rodney King thing. The riots in LA. It turned into a black-white thing. And unfortunately, but it just goes to show you the power of the media and how they could sway things and make it seem as such. But yeah, for me, legacy is from the time that it's what you do before your fame, it's what you do while you're famous, and it's what you do post. Will we ever be able to erase what he did? The 2000? No, you won't be able to. But people aren't going to look at you in the same light. It's unfortunate, but he chose his path. I don't know if you all want to answer. That's how I feel.
I just think for me, it's pretty cut and dry. He has two different. He never had a legacy as a person after football. His football career was worthy of what he accomplished, but O.J. Simpson, the man, everything after his football career has turned negative since then. So, and I think what he did as a person supersedes what he did on the field.
Charlie Perry, Chloe's dad.
Yeah. No. So
There's
So-
rumors about that.
But yeah,
Oh.
there's rumors.
Uh.
Caitlyn Jenner today, they were interviewing him, and his quote was "good riddance," basically, like that.
Oh, that's the Bruce. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
trying to say. I was like, which daughter?
Yeah, no, the Jenner, the one that flipped the script.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a touchy subject. Like I said, what he did, I think what made it even worse for him is how he acted. After he was innocent, was proven innocent. He didn't.
Show remorse. Or...
Yeah, well, he just, how he got locked up goes to show you. I got off once, I can probably get off again.
Yeah,
I'm bigger than the system.
And it didn't work that way. It didn't work out that for him like that. So shame on him. But yeah, he no one wants to or enjoys anyone that passes away. But I'm sure you'll get a lot of differences in opinion about O.J. Simpson, the man, not O.J. Simpson, the football player. Because I think everything that he did, during the trial, post the trial, a lot of people, it didn't sit well with a lot of people. If that had been anyone else, the great thing would have been to do is kind of fade into anonymity, just fade away, be out of the limelight. And he did just the opposite. Sad to say, like I said, you don't ever want to see anyone pass away, but it's something that he brought on himself.
You know what always was curious for me? What his kid's opinion of him was.
Well, he didn't have a strong relationship with
The daughter?
with his daughter.
But he still spent time with them after then. People
Are you talking about? Wait, are you talking about his older kids or his younger kids?
the ones he had with
Nicole Simpson?
Nicole Simpson?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Because that was their mother,
that was their mother. Yeah,
and they never
so
charged anybody else.
The relationship that he had with his older kids was very, very. It wasn't a good one.
No, it was strained. Yeah.
It was strained. It wasn't a good one at all.
They didn't like the way their mother was treated.
Well, I think it ran deeper than that. I think the perception was, from a lot of the things that I read, was his disconnection with what we're going back to again, with the Black community. His kids basically went on to say, I had a Black father. We don't have a Black father anymore. It was a disconnect with the
He
kids.
was at a different point in his life when those guys
it
were
was-
born.
it
He
was
was
a-
still establishing
It
himself.
was a disconnect with the Black version of him to the white version. And that was reported a lot. I don't know, how they came about it. It could have been, how he was parenting him, how he treated the mother, his ex-wife, or whatever the case was. But it just,
The rumors of his infidelity were rampant.
Yeah. Because
Sure.
he was OJ the man. But yeah, it like I said, legacy follows you. Just think of somebody like a Bill Russell, right? Bill Russell became an ambassador for basketball, till the day he died.
Yeah, they got an award out for him.
Yeah, MVP trophy. But
It's just a champion.
And he
for the
fought
record.
for acceptance in the white community, but maintained, his status as a Black man.
yeah,
He had to go through a lot more than OJ. He wasn't
yeah,
accepted
But,
by.
but,
Civil
he,
rights.
but he played in Boston though.
civil rights.
Yeah, but still, what he went through playing in Boston,
he went to a tumultuous
No, that
time,
too,
civil
but
rights.
that too, but Boston was one of the worst.
it was.
Like,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah,
But
and I'm
my point remains that he did everything right, lived a pristine life, had a perfect background, like never got in trouble or nothing like that. But he couldn't get accepted. He worked so hard. won championships, played in a racist town. He could not get accepted, but OJ was welcomed into the white community and then forgot that he was a black man too. It's just crazy. I was like,
Yeah, it's
I think at the end of his career, OJ didn't even believe he was black anymore.
um like I said, it's unfortunate because there's a lot of race intertwined in his story. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's tough. He passed away, but you're going to get conflicting opinions about him. Just going through social media, I seen people like, "Yeah, we know you did it, OJ. You were so dumb. You try to go do something again, and you got caught for it. Karma. You know, but it is what it is. I don't think that you'll see anyone outside of the the NFL. They'll put out a basic statement like, yeah, whatever, but you won't see no over crazy celebrations of his life because of what.
And every sports report that reported it was, they mentioned his athletic achievements and all that, and always made sure the end it with was, and who later in life was acquitted of murder.
Yeah.
Because they were worried about how he was going to be, how the public was going to receive the news. Like, how do you view him right now?
Yeah. In the day and age of cancel culture, that's just how it is. But I don't think it's just the cancel culture. I just think it was how he carried himself. Like I said, if he just faded away, and was kind of forgot about, then that would be fine. But it didn't happen that way. All right, so we'll move on to our final topic. NBA playoffs. All right. So, in regards to the NBA playoffs, we'll start off in the East first. All right. So in the East, basically, the East pretty much is pretty much locked. Let's see if we can get it up here. That's the West. Let's get the East up here. So, let's get it back up here. So the East is, like I said, is pretty much locked. Celtics obviously ran away with the conference, and then the Bucks pretty much nailed down the 2 slot. The interesting thing is going to be the 3 and 4, which will go to, it'll come down to the
And the
last
5.
day.
Look how close those are.
Yeah, and the 5. I'm sorry. But one victory by the 3 and 4 pretty much nulls out the 5. Let me get this off of here to choose.
Everybody's separated by about a game.
That's right
from
here.
3 through 7, 3 through 8.
Let me remove this over here so we can see the bottom.
What's that say on the bottom?
I'm gonna move it. Hold on.
It's all right. You get to play a game.
All right. So you got the Bulls at 9 and the Hawks at 10. So you got to remember, the Hawks are going to be benefiting because they're getting the guy back. He's going to be back probably tonight, I think they said.
How long was he out altogether?
Oh, he was out for
He had the
for
hand,
for a
right?
month and a half.
It was a long time.
A month and a half.
For basketball.
A month
I
and
was
a half.
just wondering if it was longer than Embiid or around the same time.
He was right after Embiid. Embiid was out for over 2 months. Over 2 months. You got to remember, he got surgery. But yeah, so if you look at 3, 4 tied, 5 is separated by a game, 5 and 6. Like I said, all 3 and 4 with a win, then you'll nullify the 5 and 6. I don't know what their head-to-heads are that would come into play. But I think the interesting thing right there is the 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? You've got the 76ers who obviously have got back, they've got back Embiid, and they're making a late push. Will it be enough? Honestly, because all right, say you win out of the 7, 8 seed, say you win there. And now you're looking at playing a 2 or a 1. Really, do you really think that the Sixers have enough Do you really think that Embiid's going to be conditioned enough to help make a run?
Well, what would help them is if they can overtake the Pacers, because then they'll avoid the top 2 seeds, and I think they can
And
beat
that's-
the Knicks or the Cavaliers.
And that's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to
yeah,
stay out of that
the game
spot.
out.
You as a Bucks fan, you don't want to see the Sixers in their first playoff
No,
run.
I know, but I'm not sold on the 76ers being a
Oh, I'm not
great
either,
threat,
but
but
it's
they're
just-
tougher
It's just you don't
because
want
they got
you don't want
Embiid.
them.
But I'm just saying, for Philadelphia's benefit, they could avoid playing 1 or 2, and I think they're capable of beating the 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I think they'll lose to Milwaukee if they play them. But I was like, they can beat Orlando, they can beat the Cavaliers, they can beat the Knicks. They only got to pass the Pacers. The Pacers and the Magic are only a half a game ahead of them. So if they win their last 2 and one of those teams loses a game,
That's my
they jump ahead of them.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, not for nothing, Pacers is going to be a tough out.
So
yeah,
so you know the team that I think that is kind of benefiting, being in the spot that they're at right now is the Knicks, in that 3 spot, because obviously being out of that 4 spot, you have to deal with the second round. You're going to have to deal with number 2 seed, possibly a number 1 seed, depending on what the case is. But I think, looking at them playing any one of those teams the way that they've been playing, I think that, there's a possibility that obviously they can make it into the second round. If you look at all those teams, right, I think that they've been playing even without some of their pieces. They've been playing a lot better. So I think it's key for them to stay in that number 3 spot, to make it possibly in the second round. I'm not really sold on the playing games. I think a lot of people are making a lot to do with the Heat, to say, oh, they've done it. They did it last year. They got a totally different team.
Yeah,
Totally different team.
it's not the same.
No, totally different team. They got a lot less moving parts.
And the teams are
healthy
ready
hero.
now.
Yeah, they got a lot less moving parts.
They're not going to catch anybody by surprise.
I don't think they're going to duplicate what they did last year. The bottom teams, the Hawks and the Bulls, it's just a battle of, they're making it out of the playoff. Then you get into play-in, and then okay, hello, you got a top seed.
Yeah.
Then reality hits you. But I think the second round of games in the East will be more telling, obviously, than the first round. When you want to talk about the West, I mean, that's what's going on in the West is brutal. We'll click over to the Wests. Let's see.
yeah, it's that top one.
Oh wait, no, I get the wrong
No,
one.
you-
So I had it. So the West is pretty brutal. So if you look at the 1, 2, and 3, they're all separated by a game. All right. I think the Nuggets benefit with the head-to-heads. They just beat the Timberwolves yesterday. I think, which secured the head-to-heads. I think they get the head-to-head against the Thunder too. The crazy matchup is going to be the 4-5.
Yep, that's already locked in.
Clippers Mavs.
That's going to be a tough one.
That's
And we know
going
the Mavs
to
seem to have
be
their number.
crazy. It's going to be crazy. It's all dependent on Kawhi. I think if Kawhi plays and Kawhi can play at a Kawhi level, I think it'll be a good series. If he's not at near or close to 100%, I could see the Mavs winning, probably 4 games or 2.
Especially the way Kyrie's
Yes,
playing. That's a
Kyrie is.
bunch.
Yeah, Kyrie's playing, out of his mind right
He's,
now.
he's coming. He's the old Kyrie.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind right now. But that's what he needed. He needed somebody to be the number 1. We've seen where he's gone and he's tried to play the role as the Batman. It just doesn't work for him.
Yeah.
But that 4-5 is going to be something to behold. Now, do we think, with the Lakers and the Warriors, do we think that the Lakers could possibly do anything like they did last year. They pretty much did the same thing that the Heat did.
Yeah, they can
Um,
because they have the talent. It's just that it's all about the depth with that team.
well, the thing is with pushing extra hard and playing every other day, will those two be able to hold up?
That's
The way of LeBron James and
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, will they be able to hold up? Um, you know, high intensity basketball calls obviously for you to be playing at the top of your game,
Yeah.
to be pushing a little harder, to be playing more minutes. Will they be able to do that? It's a tough call. Um, the Kings are in a totally different position that they were last year. And last year they were the number 2 seed. This year they've got a lot of injuries. They didn't sneak up on nobody either
Nope.
this year. So that kind of hurts them. With the Warriors, do we think that this is going to be the changing of the guard for them?
it is. It's a reality check.
Um,
2 years ago you won it. Now you're fighting to make the playoffs.
yeah. Oh well, it's back-to-back years. Back-to-back years. They were just out. They were just outside of it last year, I believe, right?
But last year they had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, well, they had injuries this year too. I mean, they had to deal with Steph being out. They had to deal with the same thing, Draymond drama. It didn't change much.
But Kaminga developed into
Well, yeah.
a viable part of that rotation now.
So this is the thing. Are you willing to rock on with Clay some more? Because he's coming off the bench now.
For this year, yeah.
Yeah. Do you I think that they probably should have got rid of him sooner than later.
Clay or Draymond?
Clay. I thought that they should have probably broke the team up after the year that which would have been last year. I thought that they should have blew it up last year.
Yeah, because the guys they need to get rid of had more value.
Yeah, you're 1 year longer in the tooth now, and it's not going to
And they gave Draymond a big contract.
yeah, it's not going to be any better.
Nuggets West Final.
Mavs Nuggets West Final. Wow.
He said, actually, that can't happen
Well, if it stays like this,
because they'll have to play each other.
They have to
before
play.
then.
Yeah, they have to play each other. Yeah. Yeah. You'd have to be in a different number. They'd have to be the whatchamacallit seed. So yeah, for me, the Warriors, I think they should have. They've got. I think they've got a replacement right now for
Draymond.
for Draymond, and you've got a younger player. So you could have gotten rid of the bloated salaries, and traded them for something else. Obviously you're not going to get number ones for them, but you probably could have got threes, and then you could have freed up a ton of money.
definitely,
Ton of money.
definitely a ton of money.
To go out there and probably get somebody in the way of free agency. But they I think they're gonna go till the wheels fall off. I think it's a loyalty thing, and sometimes loyalty doesn't do you anything but help you to lose a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you got to know when to say when. And I think for the Warriors, you look at the 35 losses. How many times are you going to say, okay, they're going to do it? They're going to do it. They're going to make a run. They're going to make a run. They're a lot older, a lot less depth, and a lot. They'd have to go to a gauntlet of a Western Conference.
You know what's crazy? I don't know how many injuries they had this year, but if they didn't lose Draymond, I think 3 different times for suspensions, they might have had 2 or 3 more wins.
Yeah.
And that 32 would have put them up around where the Pelicans are.
Well, this is why I always say, when is when? When are you going to
Have enough?
When are you going to say, okay, you cost us so much?
He's lucky he got Steph Curry there because all sources are saying he's the convincing force. Like the team is so loyal to Steph, and Steph is such a lovable guy and such a major contributor.
Well, you've seen.
He's the lawyer for Draymond Green. That's the only reason he's still there.
Well, you've seen when
Cried.
he cried when he got ejected. Yeah,
Because he put his neck on the
Yeah,
line.
he
for him.
knows.
He's like, dude, what do you want me to do?
yeah. And Steph is looking at the larger picture. He's like, man, we can't keep having you getting ejected because these are games. It may seem like just a
Exactly.
game for him, but look what Steve just pointed out.
35 losses.
2 or 3 more games where he didn't get
Jumped up
evicted,
and
ejected. It makes a world of difference for
Because
a
he was
position.
suspended long term for
that incident with choking out.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny
indefinitely
and
until they
the
roll
funny
him back
but the
in.
funny part about it
Yeah.
was it was a self-imposed suspension. They were in agreement. The league didn't say, okay, you're going to be suspended X amount of games. They made him basically go and seek treatment, and everything. Everything was provisional. That between Golden State and the league, and he came back on his own time. It wasn't like, okay, you're suspended 30 games. So he's another one. He just, every time you say, okay, we're going to give him a pass, he goes out and he does the same thing.
He's an idiot.
So I don't know. We'll see. But yes, at the end of the day, I mean, I'll put it out there. I think the Nuggets, are the clear cut best team in the NBA. They just
They're healthy.
they just know how to turn it on. They know how to play. It was witnessed last night against the Timberwolves.
I'd like to see the 2 or 3 seed step up and do something, but I don't think they've learned how to win.
I think that both the Timberwolves and the Thunder are too young.
Yeah,
I think they
learned how to
both.
win.
I
Go
think
through adversity.
I think they both need a couple of more pieces to solidify them. I think the Clippers are the Clippers. You can add different guys, but you still get the same results. I think they are just that. I think with the uncertainty of Kawhi, it only adds to their postseason faltering. The Mavericks, I think they're fire in a bottle, and then it just gets very relatively the same once you get past the Mavericks. I think all those teams down at the bottom pretty much do the same. Like I said, the Lakers, they can. I think because of their length.
What about
If the Pelicans are healthy, Zion has shown he can dominate. CJ McCollum is a proven veteran. If the thin man's healthy, because I don't know what his status is. What's Ingram's status?
I don't know. That's a lot of ifs.
But
It's a lot of ifs.
No,
If
but
ifs were a
Zion
fifth,
was-
we'd all be drunk.
Zion is still playing at a high level right now.
Yeah, well, this is the thing.
You said the same about the Suns.
It's the thing. Well, the Suns, they can't guard. The Suns can't
They don't
guard.
have enough depth.
They don't have enough depth. Yeah, well,
And Bradley Beal has not been consistent.
you can score, but you
Booker
can't stop
and
other teams from scoring
Kate
more.
and Kevin carrying them.
Yeah, they don't have depth. They just don't have. For me, it's just they don't have the right chemistry. You look at those guys and you say 33 losses. How? I understand that. What's his face was out for a couple of extended period of times, but still, yeah, I expected more out of them, even when they played together.
Oh, boy, I don't know what's up with him, man. That dude
A lot of potential.
Looks so impressive, but some days it's like, yo, who the hell is this dude?
Yeah, inconsistency. Inconsistency is how the best way to put it. And Chuck and
say,
Charles,
Chuck
they advocate for him big time.
Yeah.
Like you said, one game he looks all world, the next game it's like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah, who the hell?
Got to be motivated to be great. He takes it in small doses, but he doesn't consistently show that he can be a significant contributor.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where you need to realize that you got to show up every day, not some of the day, every day.
Yeah.
Show up every day, especially postseason.
Getting paid.
Postseason is when legends are made anyway. So we'll see what's going to go on. So the play-in begins this weekend. At the end of the week. And then the beginning of the week, and then the end of the week is when we'll have the regular playoffs will start. So by the time we come on next week, we'll
Start
be
on
rolling
Thursdays,
into the
right?
playoffs. Yeah, we'll be
Start on
rolling
Thursday, I believe.
into the which one calls into the the end of the playing games. But yeah, so that's it for the night. Remember to, like I say, always to follow, share, like WMB1 Radio. Download the app. You get a chance, visit our website. Also, we have a big announcement with the comedy show that's going to be going on. You can tell them.
May 4th, the Taurus Affair. Anybody got birthdays they're celebrating in May? We're looking to celebrate you as part of this night. Reserve a table with your friends and family. The headliner is none other than Smokey Suarez. We brought him about 2-3 years ago. People have been asking when we're going to bring him back, but there's a lot. But this is one of the guys that's worth the price of admission all by himself. You got to come out and see him. He's one of a kind. Tickets are on sale now. It's probably the best investment you're going to make. We got our boy Marlon Baker hosting it. We got a few surprises, but May 4th, get your tickets, $25 tickets, reserve a table, come down and enjoy the Taurus Affair with Smokey Suarez and friends. Saturday, May 4th.
Yes, it's a Saturday, not a Friday.
So you should be able to make it.
It's a Saturday. So we're doing big things on the weekend. So come through, show some love, show some support for WMB1 Radio.
Yes, sir.
And before we sign off, we were mentioning about OJ passing away through cancer. I have a personal shout out to Iran Pooch Brugueras' family. Lost one of my close friends in Connecticut. The whole time I was living out in Connecticut, this man did nothing but support everybody, including me. He had a clothing store out there as well. I used to call him the mayor of Park Street. Nothing but good things to say about him. He kept his battle quiet for a long time. I was kind of disappointed, but everybody has their reasons. But he lost his battle after, 3 years. He fought as hard as they could. There's not many people like Iran Pooch Brugueras. So Hartford, Connecticut, we lost a great one out there. You're not forgotten, even though I'm out here. But Pooch, I love you, and I wish your family nothing but the best going forward.
All right. With that being said, we'll see you next week. And don't forget to tune into all the regular programming that we got going here on WMB1 Radio. Yes. We got, like I said, we got plenty of great programming going on this weekend. You can tune into Frequency Live, the Really Charlie podcast, Blended Flavor Mix, Mags in the Morning with J9, as well as right here at Straight to the Point Sports. All right, we're out of here. We hope that everyone has a great night, and we'll see you all next week.
I would like to introduce.
Okay, let's go.
New online radio station.